certainly will continue to allow, promote, and court professional service uses within the BH district, which down in the village already is. So that's the theory there. It's not going to hurt you to remove that PS zone. There were some comments we received on this. So this is good. This is from a member of the Conservation Commission. There are a couple of properties that we just neglected to realize that are preserved as open space. One's called Monica's Garden up off of Inman Road. That clearly should be reflected here in the future land use plan as open space. As should be Booth Pond. We know we haven't forgotten about that one, but we put that in. In this one down on Rocky Hill, which is owned by the Land Trust. That should be reflected in the future land use map as open space as well. I received a letter from property owner of the substantially large property here on Old Smithfield Road. This is an example of an area that will be downzoned at REA 120. They had, not surprisingly, because they have one of the larger properties there, they didn't want to have any of their land rights removed. They like the fact that they can have the higher density, and they wanted to keep it at what is RA 65, so you should be mindful of that. And the last one's interesting. This is a letter I just received today from the attorney for the Anchor Subaru. They had purchased a small, non-conforming residential lot that you see there, which is completely surrounded now by the parking lot, and their improvement, they would like to ask that the business highway lots that are prescribed for change by the zoning board, they're all frontage lots along Route 146, that they include this lot. It's not a frontage lot, but it's only one lot back along Salesville Road. When you look at it, you look how it's been improved, and the fact that they own it, I don't see the harm in certainly doing that, should the council wish to support this BH zone changes. One more word on BH is, it is prescribing to, in a lot of cases, reflect what the market is doing along Route 146. If you look further down after the drive-in on the right, there's a small roofer, there's other commercial uses that are converting these old single-family homes from the 50s and 60s that once, at that time when you lived on 146, it was probably pretty quiet at night, but the market is just not really conducive to support residential on 146, so it makes sense to kind of go to the business highway and just keep it all the same as the thing. That's actually all I have, so I'll try to take any questions and go from there.
Tom, do we want to go through this like one at a time, like item one, go through it and see if there's public comment? Do we want to do that?
I think you could open up for general comments. I mean, as a reminder, planning board, the council, we've advertised this such that anything in the comp plan is fair game for amendment and discussion. Anything on the zoning map is as well. So a question could come from anywhere about any subject matter. So maybe just open it up.
So is there any wishes to address the council under the public hearing? But if you do, come up to the podium, state your name and your address. Anybody?
Scott Presbury, 111 Main Street, Slatersville. I'm just trying to get some information here. One of the areas, as you know, is on Main Street, and it's going from REA to RU20. It's item number 23 on there.
Right, yep.
So that being, right across the street, or right behind that area, your rezoning is the Slatersville Reservoir. This change, will that allow them to vary from like offsets from streams, wetlands, or anything like that?
Yeah, the environmental regulations are not connected at all to the zoning density that the municipality has locally. If it's an RA 120, setback from the stream is X. If it's RU 20, it's same.
Same as that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't allow them to circumvent any,
No.
or make any rules less strict than what's there currently.
That's an interesting one too that you bring up. This is Borgette's property, I believe, 23. That was one of the ones, you can see it, you can see it highlighted here. It was in the previous plan right there.
Right.
It was one of the ones that's actually, you could get a handful of units out of it. We had looked at it, 3 to 6 maybe.
Right, but there's also some wetlands, the reservoir.
Yeah, so everything would have to be set back from that.
Right.
Right,
I mean,
commensurate.
obviously, they have sewer running through there now, so that would help them.
That was the other reason to, I think that's a good point, I'm glad you brought it up. The other reason to substantiate some of these upzoning is you want to do it in areas where there's public sewer.
Right.
So you don't have issues with, well contamination.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Cynthia Roberts, 49 Meek Street. I have a couple of questions. One is about the general process for Tom. I got the letter and I saw that it said that you guys are accepting written comments. And could you just explain how that works? You know, like when is it final that you're finally accepting? Because some of the comments I have are kind of detailed and I don't think are necessary for a hearing, but I don't know what the process is.
Yeah, you know, the short answer is the hearing is here for a reason, right? If you have comment, you should submit it here during this first reading or during the second reading, which we're going to have coming up at another meeting. That's really the most formal, direct, proper way to submit comments. The 2 letters I did receive recently, both from attorneys, I just got them today, they were 1-page letters. They seem pretty straightforward, so it was important, I thought, to get that in the record. But
So
I
then
hope
is
that
it fine to ask the questions and give the comments right now? Or do you prefer them in writing?
No, I mean, I think it'd be appropriate to articulate what you think is needed,
Okay.
change, and then submit to Deb, the clerk, so I can have a copy of what it is. Maybe do a brief summary of the
Okay,
point.
sure. That sounds great. I'll do that. Well, one is kind of like an overarching question about, are there, I did read through the comprehensive plan and I know that residents participated in a meeting in October with the planning board and November with that potluck with Engagement or Smithfield. And we mostly focused on the community chapter. And one of the comments I wanted to make about that was if there was a way to give credit to Jessica Flaumer, who wrote that chapter mostly. And she's a planner in Providence. Just so in 2015, when I was on the planning board, she wrote mostly that chapter, and I know it's been revised, but I feel like she should get some acknowledgement for that. But I don't know what the process is for that. And then I also wanted to know, as an overarching thing, so in your presentation tonight, you specifically talked about the housing and the low-income housing and the zoning, but I wondered if there were other sections, and I'm asking this for anyone to be curious about for the second reading or hearing. Are there sections of the revised version that you think are substantively different in value to the existing 2006 version so that people can be directed to it? You know, like, I'm not saying to the letter of the law that you're required to tell us, but to the spirit of the change, are there things that are different from the previous version that might pave the way for different types of discussions and developments that people should just be alerted to proactively so they can go and read that section and comment on it?
Yeah, I can say that, no, they're really not substantive changes. To the extent there are, that's why I articulated those tonight. I think the important ones is that local ordinance we have on land planning and growth management, that dictates that you could have a certain percentage of affordable housing. Also, the Andrews Mill, that's a critical project, that's substantial, and that could offer the town affordable housing there. Otherwise, it's been simplified. That's why I wanted to show that other map. We're cutting it back, trying to create something that's actually able to be implemented. As you can see, when you look at these areas, they're not just, there are multiple lots in some of these areas. So when you look at the 06 plan, it would have been, I don't know how many people you would have to mail, thousands, several thousands to do it. So we tried to, knowing what could be coming with Andrews Mill, let's say, we tried to just put together a plan that got us close to 10%, which will hopefully get the state approval. But Now, the other thing I want to say is the comp plan is this is a full rewrite. The existing plan, which is on the table over there, is about 2 inches thick. And the whole point of it is to try to make it something people actually read. So we've rewritten the entire thing to make it shorter, but no less impactful. It's just shorter and more direct.
Thanks. And then the other part is, about for the zoning changes, how do we read or understand, and I don't know where it stands, so forgive me, but with the overlay district that at one point was being proposed for Wardleberry Hill, and whether that went through or not, and like how does that look on there? Because for people who maybe haven't been following that, how do we interpret it on the zoning changes?
That local ordinance, that did pass back in, was it May? I don't know what the dates are. May, I think, of 18. The solar overlay, that did pass by the council. Bobby's working, actually right now, on putting that up to the website. That's going to come up. There's a map that goes with that, as you said, and it's bound by the 3 utility rights-of-way off of Greenville Road. It will be reflected in the future land use map, because it would be appropriate to show potentially that future land use, of course, supporting solar farm, to reflect the commercial nature of that. So it will be in that. That's the extent of where it would be, though. Otherwise, you're reading the zoning code on the town's website.
And so for residents who wish to address issues as they relate to solar, the future of solar development in North Smithfield, in the last 1 week or 2 weeks, maybe 1 week, there was guidance that came out, I believe it was adopted by the state, around guiding developments for communities, and I was wondering how that plays into the thinking in our comprehensive plan and our direction.
Yeah, I did attend that workshop by Statewide Planning, and frankly, some of the guidance that they've offered is stuff we already have in our zoning code. We're a little ahead of that thinking process about how to cite them, what to look for, what to look at, topography and view sheds and all that. There's nothing in our local zoning that we already have for solar arrays that would really stand to benefit from that guidance. I am familiar with the guidance.
All right. I think that's it for now. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all your hard work on it and engaging the community.
Anyone else? Nobody else wants to speak on the proposed lot changes?
It's my wife, Melissa Domas Vieira. I am Rena Vieira. We are residents at 1098 Victory Highway, plot number 1-143. And I would like to respectfully address the entire panel. Don't mind me if I'm going to read from this paper, but I'm not good with words. And obviously, I do not agree with the possible changes in zoning. So in our case, it may be zoning from RA 65 to RS 40. I'd like to say that this property is my family's dream, my wife's dream, my kid's dream. It's our investment. It's the pride to own a piece of historic Slatersville and rural land, prospect of retirement dreams on rural and agricultural land, the reason why I purchased this type of property, and the possibilities of entertaining grandchildren in rural agricultural land, and that pony that I wish to buy to my grandchildren. It is my most prized investment, and it is a piece of history in Slatersville. Once more, I see that families residing in rural agricultural areas become victims of urban development. Families residing in rural agricultural land continue to be displaced and consider a trade-off for prospects of possible tax dollars, only benefiting others except its citizens. My family wonders if, this type of land is compensated at high rates, especially when government projects or acquisition affect such properties. Changing zoning from rural agricultural to residential puts at stake our property value and the possibility of future compensation or real estate revenues. Prices of rural agricultural land are expected to increase in years to come, and this type of property can generate incomes from produce, leasing to a farmer, from renting my entire property to a farmer or to someone who needs rural agricultural land. And it makes us wonder who's going to compensate us for our loss due to this change in zoning. The town of North Smithfield, the developers, who will compensate my family for the loss of a dual lifestyle, a rural agriculture within steps to the city. Where else will I be able to find such around here? Who is going to compensate me for my loss due to the change in zoning? And who will compensate me for the loss of all the opportunities that may come as a homesteader in a rural piece of land during my retirement? There are people who would be willing to pay for what they call a gentleman's piece of rural agricultural land. This change in zoning eliminates my prospect of making profits. Shall I wish to sell my property in the future? And again, who is going to be responsible for this compensation? Perhaps most importantly, taking away my property's rural agricultural zoning takes away my property's unique rare value in Slatersville, in our town, and in northern Rhode Island. Its unique rare value in the real estate market only steps away from the Slatersville historic area. It's being stripped away for the benefit of others, not for my family's benefit. In addition, you're taking away a huge part of my property's history and the history of Slatersville, which I personally deem extremely valuable, and so should anyone who has deep respect for the history of Slatersville and for the town of North Smithfield. Basically, I am stating here that I do not agree with this, and not only my personal values on the land, real estate values, but historic values of this property are at stake right now with this zoning changes. And just to think of a few things that my family has been playing with in our minds, a Slatersville Museum and Garden, a Slatersville Agricultural Museum, a senior community garden for rescued petting zoo animals, for grandchildren and grandparents to coexist, a contribution to the life and history of Slatersville and entire North Smithfield. Who knows? I urge the town officials to hear my concerns and to hear my family's concerns and to consider the changing of zoning. Thank you.
Mr. Piero, hope I wrote this down. It's map 1, lot 143?
It's 143.
Yeah, I was kind of looking for it in the list of maps of potential changes. I couldn't find it. So Tom, can you put that up on the picture?
So ID number 8.
Yeah, I was looking for it. It is area number 8. So his zone district existing is 8.5, RA65, and he would be upzoned to an acre to the RS40. So that's the reasoning at the time there, adjacent to the RU20, and potentially support infill development for a sewer extension. That's in the neighborhood near. We've blown this up and looked at it more closely too. Right here, he's in this area down in here. Morning Star. That neighborhood is largely developed and built out. There's really only 2 properties here that are large enough to maybe support subdivision for a single-family home. Otherwise, the thinking was, if that should be an area someday where they try to extend the sewer line, promoting infill to create more housing units, albeit only a couple, would help bring down that cost there. That was the think about it.
May I approach the map, please?
Yeah, yep.
I believe our property is located in the green area over here, right? 1098 Victory High.
Right. That's the several of those lots. Several of which are subject to the Slater Village development, which is a connection and extension of Silver Pines.
Yeah, we have to deal with that too. I feel like we cannot rest in peace.
That's coming up. I just got that submission for that, so that's a substantial piece of that too, right up there.
Yeah,
So.
we have to deal with Silver Pines and all this. It's a struggle.
I just have a few, my name is Alexa, known as Indira, as my husband said, I'm his wife. Just pretty quickly, I just want to know if an opportunity to get grandfathered in terms of waiving this particular property or other properties. We do have animals there, so again, we're going from agricultural to residential. That's one thing. And the other thing is too, I know Silver Pines has many issues. A lot of the residents there are still not happy. We also know that behind Silver Pines, they haven't been able to finish the development there. I don't know if there was any talk and considerations to possibly, I don't know, buy them out, since a lot of individuals that live there are very unhappy with the way things resulted in Silver Pines. And basically that's it. That's my comments. We have, do we get grandfathered in? What do we do with our animals? And what happens with Silver Pines development?
Two of them I can hit at once, I think. The grandfathering and related to the animals. If you've got a horse or something, I don't know what it is, but licensed through the zoning office and it's legal and that's grandfathered in. If you increase the intensity of that use, if you want to get more horses or something, then you are subject to the new regulations. But if you just keep what you have, you're grandfathered in. As a legal non-conforming use potentially, or still legal conforming. This change is only really, like I said, to potentially afford homeowners the ability to maybe subdivide their property to add a house here or there. And as you can see, there's only 2 spots where it could really happen. But like you said, up in the green area where you guys live, a large part of the conversation is the Slater Village. All I can say about that is it's coming, and there'll be notice, and that's the time to ask questions about that project as it relates to Silver
We have like
Pines.
a dual zoning to protect us with the agricultural piece and also the residential if the town of North Smithfield moves forward.
Well, now in this case, it would just be RS 40,000 square foot lot requirement. And again, any animals you have that